It's an honor to have Meta Commerce, a weaver of many stories, so much so that she now is known for a school of story medicine. I'm really looking forward to hearing so much more about it. A pillar of our community, Meta Commerce.
Thank you, Jay. First, let me say how much it means to me to be in this space, this day, in this moment. As I look back, I have to say that this room is the place where much of my, I want to say, what's the adjective that I need? Important moments early on in the story medicine work took place right here in this room. And I just want to acknowledge that. And I want to thank Jubilee for this opportunity to be present and to be of service. And you are already doing what I was going to ask that you do. Please let me know that you are here, because I'm going to be trying to inspire you and tickle your spirit. And so I want some evidence of your presence in this room.
All right.
Okay, yeah, we can take it
Watch
there.
what you asked for.
Yeah, yeah, we can take it there. So don't hold back, because you're about to receive it. Okay? All right, so let me begin by invoking those that we can't see before I further invite you that we can see. I love the Lord. He heard my cry and pitied every groan. Long as I live and trouble rise, I'll hasten to his throne. In the church of my childhood, one of the first things that we would hear on any given Sunday morning, as the deacons called us into worship, was the chants that they kept in front of us, that they taught us. They made sure that we had that always. Chants from the actual plantation fields that our ancestors sang together during their time of toil. And I just shared 4 lines of one of those chants with you. This vest, this piece of fabric that you see hanging here, contains appliques And the appliques contain silk fabric from the ties, the neckties that my father would wear. So I'm invoking my father, blue, red, and brown. As well as my elders and ancestors. Document your life. We will be walking in the footprints of the Spirit, dancing with the Spirit this morning by documenting our lives. I'm going to talk to you about the most important aspects, the most important gift that you have. First of all, I'm going to tell you what it is.
That's awesome. I've been waiting for this for 60 years, Meta.
We are. We're going to have that conversation today. And I guarantee you're going to feel something. Okay. Document your life. I am word medicine woman, living and working in my grandmother's tradition, herself, an Appalachian elder, writer, healer, speaker born in the hills of Eastern Tennessee in 1889. A pillar of knowledge, love, and wisdom is how I know her. How I knew her as I was growing up and how I will know her for as long as I live. My life purpose is to help people heal through story, to carry and teach story medicine. If you listen closely today to what I'm sharing, you will hear how the medicine permeates both the story and the telling. And this permeating keeps the story alive. What I will share with you today invokes them and invites you, but it must begin with my ancestors. Healing narrative, recording your life experience from your heart to discover and explore. I had a friend back in Chicago by the name of Bill Mayfield. I didn't say it, but I am from Chicago. You all know why I don't sound like you used to. I'm from Chicago. That's why I sound the way I do. So Bill was also from there, but he was living at the time in Pittsburgh. And during his time in Pittsburgh, he had done some tremendous things. He had invented a board game. He had written a play. And he had also been personally mentored by the famous Black playwright, August Wilson. So we were sitting around and Bill started talking about his play. And I left out one thing. He had also written a book on Black playwriting. So we were talking and he's all excited about this play and what he felt about it and what it demanded of him and all the technicalities of this experience that he had had. And finally, when he stopped talking, I said, well, Bill, why did you write that play? And he looked at me and he said, I wrote it to document my life. That will be with me from now on. That planted a seed in me, although I was already working with story. In fact, I was in production at that time with a play of my own. But the whole point and principle about documenting your life, that's what I came to talk to you about today. What do you do when you need a story you don't have? What do you do when you need a story that you don't have? Toni Morrison said, we must write the stories we need to read. The best case of that, well, here are a couple of best cases of that. Anita Diamond recognized that in the Old Testament, some stories were missing. The stories of the women were missing, and so she took it upon herself to write them. What a gift. I once heard Steven Spielberg speaking about E.T., and somebody was asking him how E.T. came to be, and he said he gave almost no thought to E.T. as a successful film. E.T. for him represented him giving himself his childhood fantasy. And so he wrote E.T. specifically for himself to give his inner child what he needed. Hold on to that thought. When I wrote The Mending Time, my intention was to give the child in me everything that she never got. And in so doing, other people have been blessed. The worst case scenario in terms of not having the stories is when individuals move through life never knowing, telling, or even thinking about their stories. These folks motivate me to try to reduce the number of people meeting this description. I'm serious. Descendants trying to find their people with nothing but a name and a place to go by. This may be like searching for gold in the dark, but the Spirit honors it. Anytime we're trying to fill a void in terms of story, the Spirit will honor it. Story medicine represents and teaches the importance and value of your story to your life, to the lives of your children, your loved ones, and community. Legacy, meaning it helps you to heal, to love, to serve. You have to love somebody to tell them your truth. And in so doing, your story makes them feel better, makes them feel connected. Through my years of listening to people, I've learned something about story. Story is powerful. It is infinite. It means it is not bound by time. It is connective. It brings us together like an adhesive. It is contextual. There is always a backdrop, something influencing the story. And it is alive. It is alive, people. Yes, we are one. Yona said last week that we are one. We are. We're not separate. We're not alone. but we need to learn ways to recognize and practice our oneness. We're out of practice.
Yeah.
Everything that comes to us in this world in terms of all the information, they say we're living in the information age now, keeps us totally distracted. We could live out our entire lives and never know who we are.
Yep.
If the story was not important, why all the distraction? Think on that. Use your imagination now. I'm going to invite you in, closer in, spiritually speaking, to imagine a few things. Imagine relationships where the stories are fully known. Imagine your life with your story fully told. Imagine doing things you love, such as teaching, mentoring, or eldering, using your story as a resource and guide. Now I'm going to give you some questions to ponder. Do you know the power of your words? Do you know the power of your story? Do you know the power of your life? Buddhism teaches this. If you've ever studied with the Buddhists, it's one new thing that you will learn. They teach that your life is powerful. Imagine this kind of shift in our world touched off by our stories. Individuals, this is where it starts. Building language, voice, clarity with the writing practice, healing your wounds. Families, meeting the challenge there with our stories, tearing down the secrets and taboo subjects. Do you know the story of your people? All it takes is one voice to open it. Communities and groups, imagine the power and trust in organizations and groups, the potential for love and good work that you can generate through the truth of your stories. White people, imagine what you can do to heal your community once you tell your race story. Who else but white people can help heal white body supremacy? What if you started with your story? This is truly a radical act, making you a peaceful warrior working on behalf of humanity. Women, imagine what your whole story would do to inspire, help awaken, and mobilize other women. We are a sleeping giant, my sisters. Imagine inspiring a new chorus of women's voices, changing the state of women's affairs globally. Women are oppressed all over the world in the 21st century. Imagine how this truth and awareness would change women's lives and women's history. Men. Imagine telling your story about your experience in the patriarchy and its real effect on you. Imagine the impact that could have in the world. American history. Imagine, if you can, this country with its history on the table as an open book for all of its citizens and all of the world to see and learn.
Yes.
Put your hands if you want to. So this is how I did it. And I've just finished my memoir, and I'm on fire with that book. This is how I did it. And I didn't have a plan to get there. The Spirit has always just given me step by step. And then before I know it, something is happening. So my prerequisites was a writing practice. And when I say writing practice, I'm talking about in the way that Julia Cameron teaches in The Artist Way. The morning pages, I started doing those morning pages in the year 2000. I'm still doing them.
That's awesome.
In that time, so much has happened to my writing and through my writing, just because I made a commitment and continued to write. First thing every morning, write. My grandmother would get up and she said, you know, the Spirit, it'll be 3 o'clock in the morning. She would get up and say, the Spirit just said, write. And she'd get a pencil and a paring knife and sit down to the kitchen table. She didn't have a pencil sharpener, so she just sharpened the pencil with her paring knife. You know, never cut herself. I didn't understand how she could do that. So it's a writing practice, the first thing. Then I tried, once I returned to school, I went to a school where they want you writing in the first person, making it personal. Then trying 3 different approaches before I struck gold. And I use that metaphor, striking gold in the writing process. We are all carrying around gold that we don't even know we're carrying. It's in your soul. So I wrote my story chronologically, and from that, just beginning with my earliest memories and just continuing on until I felt like I had said all that I needed to say. And raw emotion came from that, just raw emotion. Then I wrote by decade and social issues. When you're a boomer, you know that when you grew up, the world was changing in a way that it never changed before and it hadn't changed since. Mm-hmm. You saw more change. And so I had rich things that I could pull from in every decade of my life. And so I tried that. And from that, I gained a greater sense of creativity and freedom in the writing. But it wasn't until I began to write the life-shaping stories that that I struck gold. I'll say it that way. My deepest memories were there, and it was like an excavation kind of process had taken place. So my books, my play, my poetry, each grew stronger the more I wrote. Writing my story changed my life, taught me much about myself, about others, about life and the world. With all that is going on today, you have probably asked yourself what you can do to make the world better. I want you to know that your story can make the world better. Elders, your story is golden. Somebody said that there are more elders alive today than there have ever been in human history. The Spirit said that's for a reason. Think about what you have on the inside that you can give to the younger generation. Many of them have lost their way. It sounds simple, but it is anything but. Your story is perhaps the most valuable thing you will ever have. And I'm not talking about riches. I'm not talking about honor. I'm not talking about anything that the world would have you chasing. Talking about something real that they can't take from you. So here's my memoir experience. Becoming an author authorized me to break the silence all around me. I refer to the system of silence for generations in my family, active for generations in my family before I was born. I completed this writing process in stages, on and off, for 19 years. My memoir came alive unexpectedly with the stories of the women of 4 prior generations, and so telling my story in the context of theirs created a dimension of generational healing for and through me. It's my grandmother. Oh, that's okay. It's my mother. Me. My daughter. Thank you. These are some of the ways that have been stripped and taken from us. We can get them back. It's in our DNA. If you get quiet enough, you'll remember the things that you forgot. I had a teacher that said all the time, healing is the return of the memory of wholeness. This is something I've been able to share with my daughter and help her. I've used my story to heal myself. I've used it as a template for healing others. How? I've learned that my story is unique only in its external elements of time and place. Otherwise, it's pretty common. Here's what I mean. Slide. Okay, so great things we face. I just have 2 slides that begin with birth, challenge, question, learn, give, loss. Next. Chaos, tearing, freedom, longing, contracting, expanding. This list could have been much longer, but the point that I'm making with these words is that we all face certain milestones, certain challenges, certain experiences along the way that make us who we are. Each of us. Thank you. So our great question is, I'm going to invite you one more time. Our great question is, imagine that there is but one story, that we're each carrying a piece of it. What if our work here is to find our piece of that story and bring it back to the whole, as if to restore what's been broken? Tikkun olam, that's Hebrew for restoring what has been broken. So from my memoir, I learned to see my life's great questions and challenges clearly. I learned to find my spiritual inheritance. I learned to take my healing opportunities. I learned to exercise compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. And I want to add to that, as a child, I always wanted to understand what was going on. Now I do, and sometimes I wish I didn't. But I must be able to handle it if it was given. I learned to live simple values such as people first, truth heals, live by the truth. And here are the benefits that I received from this work. I gained freedom, authenticity, voice, and wholeness. Freedom, authenticity, voice, and wholeness. So come on, people. Document your life and set yourself free. It's an invitation, a very special invitation. And if you accept it, this simple yet not so simple act will benefit us all. Thank you, and Ashe.